Hey guys, welcome to another video. This is the fourth vlog in the House of Night Book 1 vlog series. I've been doing kind of reading vlogs for the last couple of weeks, and we are actually nearing the end of the first book, Marked. And so if you haven't seen the previous vlogs, what I'm going to talk about tonight is going to kind of require some understanding. But if you haven't seen those vlogs, they'll be in the cards somewhere in the top of the screen. Okay, so for this one we are looking at chapters 21 to 24. I was going to go from 21 all the way through to 29 and just like finish up the book, but figured it would be better to just do it this way. So I've got my notes open in front of me here. Yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so chapter 21 picks up where chapter 20 left off. Zoey ends up joining the Dark Daughters, which kind of surprises her friends. I think Damien actually puts it as she's taking the enemy head on or something like that. I don't mind this. It is kind of foreshadowed, but at the same time it's also kind of like you know that you're the new kid and you're just kind of rushing in headlong without a real plan. Again, it's not bad, it's just kind of, it feels a little bit rushed to me. Chapter 20, they also discuss kind of, or rather they start discussing the possibility that Zoey has an affinity for the elements, which leads us into chapter 22. And that's kind of the key point of chapter 22 is Zoey's elemental affinity. Sorry guys. The cat just kind of snorted a little bit in his sleep. Okay, so Zoey and her friends kind of decide, okay, well, let's cast a circle and see what happens. And this is pretty much one of the only times in the book that Zoey actually plans anything. We've seen her do things in the book before, but most of it has been in reaction to something. Zoey actually kind of says, okay, well, I have this idea, and she actually discusses it with her grandmother at one point. Before she talks to Damien and the others, she talks to her grandmother first, and they discuss an old prayer that they used to say together. And Zoey says, okay, well, I'll use that as the circle casting, which is fine. And they plan to meet up and do the circle, and that's kind of chapter 22 in a nutshell. Really? Sorry guys, I did not have this very well planned. Just let me set that to do not disturb. Right. Now I shouldn't be interrupted again. Where was I? They plan to do the circle, and Zoey and Aphrodite have this kind of cat fight of sorts. Aphrodite kind of says, well, you know, you can't have Eric is mine, you'll always be mine, that kind of thing. Things do kind of escalate a little bit, and Zoey very quickly puts a stop to it, which, we'll admit, I quite liked. Because it actually leads to one of the more humorous moments where Stevie Ray appears from under one of the trees and says, oh no, I was hiding because she scares me. So yeah, pretty good all around. So obviously chapter 22 they're planning the circle, chapter 23 they work at casting the circle, and essentially here Zoey gives each of her friends a candle representing an element. So Damien represents air, Shawnee represents fire, Erin is water, Stevie Ray is earth, and then Zoey is of course spirit. And essentially they go through the whole casting process. She does something called smudging, kind of driving out negative spirits, which I will admit I quite liked. I liked her explanation for why they use the sage and what the smudging is for and that sort of thing. The one thing that kind of, and this is something that other people kind of brought up in their reviews, is Zoey's heritage as Cherokee is mentioned, but it's only ever mentioned a couple of times in the book. Kind of at the end of, I believe it's the end of the first chapter, she talks about, the blood of her ancestors singing and that sort of thing after she's marked. And one of her friends makes a comment, well, wait a minute, I think it was either chapter 22 or 23 when this comment was made, but they basically say, well, if you're Cherokee and we're not Cherokee, so how do we know this is going to work? Again, it's not a problem really, it just kind of confused me a little bit because, well, I mean, it's not I can't really say it confused me, although I just did. I will say it kind of irritated me because we don't really get to see much to say, okay, well, she's Cherokee. We don't get much in terms of Cherokee beliefs and that sort of thing. It's mentioned here and there, and Zoey actually goes into some detail here, but it feels a little bit off, a little bit forced. That said, I liked the circle casting. I liked how Zoey modified the prayer a little bit to make it a little bit more specific to Nyx, and yeah. And basically they were just asking Nyx for guidance, trying to figure out what was going on and why Zoey had the affinity for all 5 elements, and that kind of thing. Now after that we kind of get to 24, and admittedly nothing really happens in 24. After the circle is cast and everybody is a little bit giddy afterwards, Zoey kind of separates from her friends to think, and she meets up with Eric, and they kind of chat a little bit, and this brings up a trope that I've seen a lot in a couple of different horror novels and YA novels and that sort of thing. The you make me feel different trope. Eric talks about, and this is after they've spent a little bit of time in the middle of a makeout session. Zoey kind of pulls back and goes, wait, hold up a second, I'm not like Aphrodite, and they kind of have this little back and forth. And at one point Eric says, well, I've never felt like this. And she very rightly says, well, you were with Aphrodite before, so yes, you have actually felt like this. And he promptly responds with, that was physical, this is emotional, this is about feelings in my heart. Which irritated me. again, it's a trope that I've seen a lot, and it's a trope that's been done better in other books. At this point, these two characters hardly know each other. Zoe's been at the House of Night 4, unless I'm mistaken. I could be mistaken, but I think she's been there about maybe 2 weeks. About maybe two or 3 weeks only. And they've exchanged maybe a few sentences together. They haven't really talked much. So there's no kind of build-up to the relationship. It's just kind of there. And I don't know, it's just a trope that I think needs to just disappear. If it's done well, then I don't have a problem with it. And I've said this before, there are certain tropes that I don't take issue with. This is one of those that I actually do kind of take issue with, because it strikes me as a very manipulative thing to say. When he says, you know, Aphrodite, the stuff that I felt for Aphrodite was physical, I know the difference between physical attraction and emotional stuff, and I thought you did too. Well, that feels like it's a very manipulative, slimy thing to say. And in the end, they actually exchange kind of a promise of sorts, or rather Zoe promises him, with a bit of prompting, that she won't let Aphrodite, the Aphrodite and Eric's previous relationship, get in the way of her and Eric's relationship. And like I said, I've said it a couple of times, I take issue with this primarily because, as I said, it seems like a very slimy thing. It seems like a very manipulative thing, and it's something that you see regularly in real life, unfortunately. And again, there's no build-up to it. We don't see these characters really getting to know each other or really bonding over anything apart from, I think it was chapter, let me just go back through my notes for a second, chapter 17, 18, and apart from that before that they've exchanged hardly a single word between the two of them. So there is no real reason for these two to have a relationship beyond maybe infatuation on Zoe's part. And the hell of it is, the character of Eric Knight up until this point has seemed like an okay guy, like a nice guy. Now he may very well be a nice guy, and I mean, he is known to be a nice guy, but that line, I don't know, it didn't sit well with me at all. Yeah, I don't know what else to say in regards to that. It's a trope that, to my way of thinking, promotes, well, I can't really say it promotes, but it feels like it's something that would encourage a dangerous kind of relationship. The books are marked as not suitable for younger readers. That doesn't mean that younger readers aren't going to get a hold of them, though. You know, this kind of manipulative behavior in a relationship is just not good, to my way of thinking. If it were kind of like a joke between the two of them, if they'd known each other a bit longer and they were like exchanging jokes frequently, this might seem more like a joke, but it's played completely seriously, And Zoey actually mentions after she makes that little promise that it scares her that she makes the promise. Yeah, not much else to say on that. It's a trope that I don't like seeing. I've seen it in a couple of other books, and in general those other books it's more love at first sight, or infatuation that leads into love, or infatuation that stays as infatuation, or lust, or whatever it might be. But I've very rarely seen or read a character manipulating another character the way that this particular scene felt to me. So yeah, it's a trope that I don't typically take issue with it. I take issue with it here because I've seen it way too often in books, and this one actually, the way it was done here just doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, it's a trope that I think in general just needs to die. It just needs to go away. So yeah, that is the 4th vlog in my House of Night vlog series for Marked. We have one more, I believe. Yeah, we have one more vlog to do for Marked, and then we can move on to the next book. Let me know what you thought. I'm kind of curious. What do you guys think about that last part of 24, that trope that I brought up? Does it come across as manipulative to you, or not? Why or why not? Yeah, as I said at the start of the video, if you haven't seen the previous vlogs, I recommend highly going back and rewatching rewatching or watching those. And you know, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really do have to get into the habit of saying this, but leave a like if you did, and if you want to see more content like this one, or more videos like this one, then hit the subscribe button and the little bell so that you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye guys.